Hey guys, it's M4J here, and welcome back to the Jeffries Network here on OpenTTD. We're doing a big construction project today. I'm a little bit out of breath because I just ran up the stairs, so you'll have to bear with me for a second whilst I catch my breath. I'm old. We're doing a big construction project today. This is arguably the biggest single construction project that's been undertaken on this network, even bigger than the high-speed lines that we have built in the past. With high-speed lines in mind, we're going even faster. So currently the top speed on the high-speed line is 250 miles per hour. This new line that I'm building today will have a top speed of 380 miles per hour. A lot faster. A lot faster. I'm really looking forward to getting loads of trains out on the line. Now I will point out at this stage that there's a lot of destruction that goes on, particularly in the central Guard City section. In the past, I've hinted about a line that's going to link up GSJ and GSP or MI via Guard Lake. That is what's happening today. So we've got these rapid transit lines. I suppose I'll use the RT word now. We've got rapid transit lines that link up the east to the west, and in the core section. In fact, you can see right on your screen right now what happens. On the core section, it links up GSJ and GSMI. Originally, it was going to link up GSP. I should start using their proper names, actually. It's going to link up Guard City St. John and Guard City St. Michael. Originally, it was going to link up Guard City St. John to Guard City St. Peter. However, I always thought St. John and St. Peter were level with each other in terms of the map, but they're not. St. John's actually a lot further north than St. Peter. So you can see there's a couple of S-bends that I've had to build in, and even then we only just about reach the north edge of Guard City St. Michael, which is not necessarily a bad thing. I think actually it's worked out quite nicely. The central section, when I first built it, I wasn't too happy with it, and it could also be argued now that I'm still not that happy with it. However, when it's just a big brown site where like a station's been built and the land hasn't grown back yet, or the buildings haven't grown back yet, it does look a bit awful. I'll admit that. But once it's all grown back and the ground's turned green again and buildings have sprung up in the spaces, it actually looks okay. The section between Guard City St. Michael and Guard Lake has actually grown back quite fast, so I'm quite happy with that. I think that's also the area that had the minimum disruption. In fact, pretty much between St. Michael and West Bank, it's just a straight line. And then between West Bank and Guard Lake, there's a little S-bend. We had to do a little bit of terraforming. In fact, I'm looking at it on the game at the moment. There you go, on the screen. There's a little bit of terraforming that was required, but I think that bit's okay. The section between Guard Lake and Guard City St. John is a bit more difficult to like. Very difficult to like, in fact. I'm not the biggest fan of it yet. There's two really tight bends. There's a lot of big bridges. There was a road bridge that used to cross the water that's had to be demolished. Ideally, I'd have liked to have built it in a tunnel under GSJ, but I can't do that because that's where the metro lines run. And I'm starting to find some limitations in this map now, and that is definitely one of them. Something that I saw a little while ago when I was looking at building this line, I was trying to find a particular patch. I don't want to change the patch of the game that I'm playing because I really like Joker's patch, and I think there will actually be complications if I suddenly decide to swap what patch I'm using. So I'm not going to do that. That's stupid. But there is a patch that involves being able to build underwater tunnels. So even once you get to sea level, you can build a tunnel and it will span a body of water. And essentially, it's just two tunnel portals that are linked. Trains and road vehicles and stuff can run through them. But it allows you to go under sea level, essentially. And that would be really handy for this section of line. So instead of building it all as bridges like this, I'd be able to build it as tunnels. And that's why I've built the platforms at Guard Lake underground, because I could have gone overground and then bridged over all of the bridges coming in and out of Guard Lake on Centre Rail. But I thought that's the one where if this project's going to work, that's the one that you want to do first. So I've built that one underground, and then GSMI and GSJ can both have their platforms moved underground at a later date. Those tunnels can also cross over each other. So just like it simulates diving under a body of water and up again, it will also simulate diving under another tunnel and up again. So I think actually that works quite nicely. At the moment, the name of this line is TransRapid. Using my usual policy of swapping words around essentially and coming up with a supposedly clever name that way. Each station has been built to a unique design. However, there are some that share design features with other stations on the network. So I would quite like to find a new GRF perhaps that that allows me to build more different station varieties. I'm really struggling with my words today, I don't know why. But yeah, I will actually ask people for help, because it looks like installing a patch, particularly the patch that allows you to build underwater tunnels, isn't just as easy as dragging a file into a folder. It sounds like there's a lot of configuration and stuff that's required. So, put out a request to you guys. If anyone out there has fiddled around with this sort of thing in the past and knows what they're doing, some advice would be very nice in terms of getting that underwater patch working. So if you know what you're doing, drop me a comment down below, give me some advice, and we'll see if we can get that working, because then I can rebuild the central section of TransRapid. What's it? I think it is TransRapid. I can't remember now. And we can get all that working. That's the main thing. Next thing I want to talk about is an apology for Friday. I suppose I should go into a bit more detail about what the hell's been going on, because it's annoying for me when I read back over my tweets and it's just constant me saying there's no video today guys, I will explain in the future, and then no actual explanation. So I will explain to you very quickly what's been going on. So I said in the past that there was a family bereavement on Boxing Day. Unfortunately my grandfather passed away on Boxing Day, which was a bit of a shock to everybody. I won't go into too much detail about the fallout of that, but I will say that Thursday just gone, so the day before the video was supposed to be released, my grandmother passed away as well. So bit of a torrid time, but that's the reason why videos have been a bit what's the word I'm looking for? Sporadical. That's the one. That's why videos have been a bit sporadical, because of all those sort of family things that we're having to deal with. So I do apologise for that. Things are getting better now, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue for too much longer, thankfully. But yeah, I feel you guys deserve to know exactly what's going on. Some people might not want to know, and that's fine. But I mean, I don't have a problem sharing it, really. It's a part of life, so there's no point hiding from it. But yeah, as I say, I felt you guys deserved an explanation, so there it is. Whilst we're talking about explanations and stuff, last week I put out the message about the change in the YouTube monetization and asked you guys for your support in any way that you can. The response to that has been a bit here and there, I would say, in that one person is now supporting me on Patreon. George Silver's supporting me on Patreon. Big thanks for that. So you do now unlock the ability. In fact, I'll have to check the tier system. You unlock certain rewards for different tiers. In fact, if you go check out my Patreon page, I'm not asking you to support me necessarily, but that will do a better job of explaining it than I will, because I'm going by memory, whereas that is actual true to life. There are 6 tiers, I believe. Each one comes with its own perks and rewards. And yeah, I'm not expecting everyone to support me on Patreon, because that would be a bit unfair of me just to ask for money. But where I say it's a bit hit and miss with the response, what I was really looking for was people to spread the word of the channel. Like I said in the video, money's great, you know, everyone loves a bit of money, but at this point in the channel's life, money's not the issue. You know, I have enough to get by, as it were. The issue is getting the word out about the channel. And I think people misunderstood that slightly. So we've got loads of people saying that they hope the series doesn't go anywhere, and then we've got people who are now supporting me on Patreon as well. But that's not the point I was making. The point I was making was, it's really at this point in the channel's life. It is up to you guys as well to spread the word of the channel. If you're watching the content and you're enjoying it, then, you know, share a video, put out a tweet, put a status on Facebook, whatever it might be, to spread the word of the channel. It's all well and good putting in the comment section that you're really enjoying the series and you hope it doesn't go anywhere, but, you know, sharing comments on YouTube doesn't grow the audience. It just shares your message with the audience that already exists. And that's something that I've had to find out recently as well. I mean, I knew that bit, but also you can't just keep putting out comments on Facebook and things like that. Eventually you are relying on your audience to do their bit and spread the word. So again, it's a bit of a plea. It's a bit of a almost desperation. I'm not shutting down the channel if the word doesn't get spread, because I'll still enjoy doing this as a hobby. But like I said last week, this is a career goal for me. Being able to do this full time is something that I would really like to do, but at this moment in time it's totally impossible to do that, because there's no support. You know, people say nice things, and it really does touch me when people say those nice things about the channel, and I particularly like when people say that I'm the only one doing a certain thing, because that's exactly what this channel's all about. It's about doing things that other people aren't doing, either through trying new things and wanting to experiment and explore, but also through annoyance, really, that the content that I want to watch isn't out there. So I sort of came to the conclusion that maybe I should make the content myself, and that's how this channel started. It's how a lot of channels start, actually, to be fair. But yeah, it really does need you guys now to do your bit as an audience. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up button. You'll be surprised at what a difference that makes. If you haven't done so already, link your YouTube account to your Twitter account, and then link your Twitter account to your Facebook account. I think that's still possible. And what that means is if you thumb up a video on YouTube, it shares it as a tweet, and then it also shares it as a Facebook post. And again, you'll be surprised what an impact that has. It's literally one button that you have to click, and that's it. And then if you like a video and you hit the thumbs up button, all of your friends get to see that you've watched that video, unless you're embarrassed by it, of course. Or I'm not sure why you'd be embarrassed about watching this content, but there you go. But yeah, any support like that I would appreciate immensely. That would make a massive, massive difference. And it makes the whole thing worthwhile when I know that more people are watching. It's one of these things about, I always look at my channel growth, and I always look at the history of the channel growth, and I see that it was really starting to gain momentum, and then about a year and a half ago it just stopped, and I've basically been stuck on 860 something subscribers for about a year now. It's a bit ridiculous that it was doing so well and then it suddenly ground to a halt. I really want to find out why that was, but yeah, please share the channel. That's a big deal for me, and I would very much appreciate it. And George, if you're watching, I will be in touch probably later on this week about the rewards for your support on Patreon. And if anyone else does want to support me on Patreon, there should be a link at the end of each video. When the end card comes up, there should be a link in that, if you just click on the Patreon logo. Alternatively, there is, in fact, I think I need to update that. I think I changed the URL for my Patreon, so the link that actually comes up on the end screen that you can't click on, that needs to be updated. I think that's it for the preachy stuff. How long have I got left? About 18 minutes. So let's talk about the news, shall we? So one of the reasons I've basically left doing the audio for this quite late in the day. It should still be rendered and uploaded on time, but I was waiting for my railway magazine to arrive, because I know that there's some really juicy news going around at the moment in the rail industry, and I'm glad I waited, because there is some really juicy news coming on in the rail industry at the moment. So let's start with the first big bit of news, and that's Thameslink. Thameslink are currently running preview services on the Peterborough to Horsham and Cambridge to Brighton routes. And these are the first revenue-earning trains to run through the new canal tunnels. I mean, I say new, they've existed since 2007 pretty much, but as you come into King's Cross, particularly if you're on the slow lines, you'll notice a pair of tunnels that curve off to the west. between Gasworks Tunnel and Copenhagen Tunnel. Those two lines, the actual tunnel has existed for about 10 years. I think the actual track was only installed in the last couple of years. They're called the canal tunnels, and they link directly to the subsurface platforms at St Pancras International. The trains are now starting to run on there using the new Class 700s. So they're running between, as I say, Peterborough and Horsham and Cambridge to Brighton. Currently there are only 2 services a day on the Peterborough-Horsham route. One in the morning, one in the afternoon. And there are return journeys not long afterwards as well. And then the Brighton to Cambridge route, there's 1 journey in each direction each day. Preview services is what they're all about. Eventually the services will be increased, and then I think it's something like 2 or 3 trains an hour will end up running on those routes during the day, which is pretty good. Train every half an hour, that's about the same as what we get at the moment. Next news, Kenilworth has missed another opening date. I already knew that. It was supposed to open on February 26th. It's now been scheduled for March 5th. And I haven't heard anything about it. What's today? Today is the 5th, so it should have opened today. I haven't heard anything about it yet, and I have checked Twitter. So, we'll see about that. But yeah, that's another big bit of news. Another big bit of news, which, if you don't live in Scotland, I suppose this means nothing to you, but the Intercity brand has been revived. ScotRail, who have inherited the HSTs from Great Western, First Great Western, or Great Western Railway. I think the company is still First Great Western, but I think the franchise... Well, the franchise has always been called Great Western. I think the company name is now Great Western Railway. But ScotRail have inherited the HSTs, and they have got a very nice new livery actually, and they're reusing the Intercity name. So currently there's an HST running between Dundee and Haymarket in Edinburgh, and there will be, I think, Aberdeen to... Basically, every major city in Glasgow, in Scotland, will be linked via this new service. I think that's great. I think it's great that Scotland is getting... Okay, they're old trains, but they're still very good. The fact that... I mean, I made this argument in the past. They were built back in the 70s? 60s? I'm trying to remember if it's 40 or 50 years. Some smart arse will correct me in the comments, they always do. I'll talk about that in a second actually. They're still great trains. They got new engines just a few years ago, which increased the power output. They don't have the legendary noise that they used to have, but they do still have a very good power output. They've still got very good lifespan ahead of them, and they look very, very nice. And it means they can operate on unelectrified routes as well, so none of this bi-mode nonsense. They've actually got very good trains now running up in Scotland, along with the new trains, which again I'll talk about in just a second. The new trains that are going to be put on the Northern franchise that are being built by CAF, they're underway. Bodywork is being built in Zaragoza, and then it's being shipped over to Irun. I don't know where Irun is actually. I think it's in Eastern Europe, but I'm not 100% sure. In fact, it might still be in Spain. Again, smart ass in the comments will correct me. That's where they're being assembled, and then they're being brought over to the UK. I think when the new factory opens in Wales, some of the construction might be transferred there, if they're still building trains at the time. Other major news, the Class 345s, the new Crossrail trains, they're now being tested in and out of Paddington, and there was also the first test run of a train through the tunnels between Abbey Wood and Connaught Tunnel, which is the tunnel underneath, I want to say, Victoria Dock. I think that's right. That's happened, which is good news. Well, I always think, like, Crossrail isn't supposed to be running through the tunnels between, I think it's between Paddington and Abbey Wood this December, so basically the end of this year. But a bit like with High Speed 1, they actually ended up running preview services because they were ready to go sooner than expected. And I think that might end up being the case with Crossrail, because it sounds like it's all finished. I watched a video of Jeff Marshall's recently where he went to Canary Wharf Crossrail station, and it's finished, basically. They're doing a couple of bits of aesthetic work, putting tiling up and stuff like that, but the station is finished and ready to go, and it looks really, really nice, actually. Really nice. I believe Farringdon's nearly finished. I'm not sure about the others. I know Paddington, the lines that connect up at Royal Oak, they're not finished yet. And I think it is the same story over at Liverpool Street as well. So there is work still to be done. But the fact they're now running trains through the tunnel, even if it's just as a test, means that Crossrail is very, very close now indeed. Very, very close. Other major news? There's loads of major news, so brace yourselves. Eurostar have launched a service to Amsterdam. Now I'm trying to get my head around this article because the headline is Eurostar launches direct service to Amsterdam. However, it says currently there's no direct trains between Amsterdam and London until December 2019. I think what's happening is you take a Eurostar from St Pancras to Brussels Midi and then change to a Thalys train, which then takes you on to Amsterdam Central. That looks to be the case. It's going to take 4 hours 45 minutes, which, I mean, that sounds considerably longer than flying, but then you think about the flight between Amsterdam and London is an hour, I think. I'm trying to remember how long it was when I flew there. I think it's an hour. Might be a little bit less. I know it's 40 minutes between London and Paris, so maybe it's over an hour. And then you have to get to the terminal at the departure end about 2 hours before departure, and it takes you another hour to get through the terminal at the other end. Plus you then have to travel to and from the airport. And Schiphol actually is quite easy to get from. It's about half an hour on the train and it's about 45 minutes by taxi. But you add that all up and it comes to about 4 hours 45 minutes. So it's about the same. And for me especially, now that there's trains running between where I live and St Pancras directly, it's literally get the train to St Pancras, a 2-minute walk to the Eurostar departure lounge, hop on a train there, and I'm in the centre of Amsterdam in 4 hours. I think that's pretty cool. Eventually they're going to be running direct trains between London and Amsterdam, but that's not happening until December 2019. I think I've already said that. And one thing that is cool is the Amsterdam trains will be timed for 1 hour 48 between London and Brussels, which is the fastest timing on that route. So that's cool. You think you get on a train in London and you're in Brussels in less than 2 hours. That's impressive. That's very impressive. That's the headline news out of the way. There is some other news that I wanted to talk about regarding the underground. I'm trying to find it. You have to excuse the page turning noises. I'm not being very discreet. Where is it? It was really good news. I can tell you the gist of it. The Metropolitan line currently runs to Watford. They were planning on building something called the Croxley Rail Link to link up Watford Junction to the underground network. It's been cancelled, according to this article here. The Mayor of London, Sadiq Khan, has said there will be no more government money available, and there's a £73 million funding gap in the project. And that's on top of the original budget of £284 million. Work has already been begun. You know, there's actually a lot of it that's been done. I think the only thing that's missing is the actual rail link between Croxley and Watford High Street, I think it is. And it seems really stupid that they're cancelling it when it's... I mean, it's not finished, but it's a long way to being finished. I think it's really short-sighted. The alternative, of course, is... Currently the Bakerloo line only runs as far as Harrow and Wealdstone. It used to run as far as Watford Junction. Technically the infrastructure is already in place for it to continue to Watford Junction. I reckon if the Met line gets cancelled, then they should extend the Bakerloo line up to Watford Junction. Or, instead of going via the Croxley link, the Metropolitan line used to join up with the Bakerloo line. Although it's technically now the Jubilee line, but I reckon if you build a new connecting line a bit closer to central London and just have Metropolitan line trains share the route with London Overground from somewhere, Queen's Park maybe? I'm trying to think whether the actual connections are. But do it that way. It might be cheaper, you never know. Anything's better than just cancelling it. I think that's incredibly stupid to just cancel something that is basically all but done. Other sort of rail news, there's not that much in terms of the network. There's been extended platforms at Edinburgh Waverley. There's also been new platforms built at Liverpool Lime Street. There's some new work going on, a lot of work actually going on in Liverpool to upgrade the route ready for longer trains, faster trains. They're also introducing a new service on a piece of line called the Halton Curve, which is currently single track, and I think was only used for freight. It links the lines between Chester and Liverpool Lime Street. That's now being improved. I think it's still going to be single track, but it's being electrified. It might just be diesel only still, but they're upgrading it so it can carry passenger trains. And there's going to be an hourly service on that route between Liverpool and Chester, which I think is pretty good because it means you don't have to change at crew anymore. There's new contracts for High Speed 2, particularly on the, well, actually it's for the main contractor on phases 1 and 2A. Actually, and again, I was watching a Jeff Marshall video. He's very good, by the way. I might put a link to his channel in the description. He's very, very good for rail news because he just knows everyone who works in the industry. It always amazes me. He goes to these media days. He's actually the one that posted the video about Viva Rail as well, which I don't think I've talked about yet, actually. Viva Rail is something I want to come back to. But he posted a video of going to Canary Wharf. He posted a video about Viva Rail. He gets invited to lots of media days, and he just knows everyone that works in the industry. So if you want good rail news, he is definitely one of the people to look at. But he made a video about High Speed 2 and the building work at Euston, and it was him and a friend of his who works for TfL just going around all the streets around Euston saying which buildings are going to be demolished, which buildings are going to be staying. There's a lot of buildings that are going to be demolished. There's also a lot of buildings that are going to be staying. But something that I was sort of aware of but not fully aware of is High Speed 2's been greenlit. The actual construction work has begun. So all these campaigns that I've been seeing saying cancel High Speed 2, they're almost futile now because building work's going ahead. And good, that's what I say. They're still changing some of the routes, I believe, to benefit the local residents, which is fine. I think that's fine. Got no problems with that. But it's good that they're actually plugging ahead with it. And I do think it will end up paying for itself sooner than expected. Other big news. There is some more. New trains, that's definitely something that's worth talking about. Like I said, the HSTs are now being re-liveried into ScotRail livery. There's also, oh yeah, the old Class 365s, the networkers, they're being put into storage. 21 of the 40 are being put into storage, which I think is a real shame. They are capable of operating under the wires, but they can also operate on third rail as well. So I reckon they should be refurbished and sent elsewhere on the network, because they were only built 23 years ago. Built in 95. When I'm older than trains that are being decommissioned, that's how I know that, you know, I'm a very old man now. But again, there's this real impetus at the moment on building new trains, and something that Viva Rail are doing, which I really, really like, is proving that actually the old trains are perfectly good. When I was watching the Viva Rail video, I was watching one that Jeff Marshall did, but I was also watching Robert Llewellyn, who you all know as Crichton in Red Dwarf. He's also been in Scrap Heap Challenge and things like that. He has a channel called Fully Charged, and he did a video on Viva Rail about their electric train, the battery operated train. And he was talking to the I don't want to say social media manager, because I know she's got a much more important job than that. I'm trying to think of the media manager, I suppose is her job title, of Viva Rail. And again, she pointed out something that I was vaguely aware of, but something that really should be hammered home. The old District Line trains, they were built in 1978, between 1978 and 1980, and everyone thinks, oh, they're really old, they need to be decommissioned, blah blah blah. They're only, what, 40 years old now, and something that she said, they reusing the same body shells and the same chassis, because the lifespan of the train is actually 70 years. So the trains are only just halfway through their lifespan, and if it wasn't for Viva Rail, they'd have been scrapped. And I look at things like the 365s, considering they're built to a more modern standard, they're also built with mainline running in mind, whereas Viva Rail trains have to be adapted. And that tells me that if a train built in the 70s has a 70-year lifespan, then a train built in the 90s must have at least a 90-year lifespan with the updates in technology. These trains are only 23 years old, so they're not even a quarter of the way through their lifespan yet, and they're being put into storage, and some could potentially end up being scrapped. How stupid are we that we're doing things like that? It's really, really frustrating, particularly when people then talk about rail routes and stuff being a waste of money. But they're the same people, and I've said this before, I'll keep saying it until something happens. The same people that moan about High Speed 2 being a waste of money are then asking the Department for Transport for new trains to run on the West Coast Main Line, not realising that that means the old trains just get scrapped. That's it. You know, there's no train heaven or anything like that. They get sent to Kingsmore, tends to be the one, same place as all the Eurostars are going to, and they're being butchered, and that's it, the end of the train. And then 10 years on from now, the same people will be complaining that the new trains aren't satisfying demand. But these same people are also the ones that are campaigning for new rail links to be cancelled that are relieving congestion on the lines that they're then complaining are too congested. And yeah, it's just this real vicious circle of stupidity. And it gets so frustrating and annoying to read about. But that's it for the rail news. Sorry if that was a little bit boring. I should have planned it out a little bit better. To be honest, this video wasn't going to happen today because of the stuff that I said happened about family bereavements and stuff. But I was watching the Oscars last night and just found myself starting to play the game just to see what was going on and if I could survey some stuff. And before I knew it, I'd hit record and I was building the rapid transit line, which I haven't even talked about, by the way. I'll talk about that very quickly. I'm aware of the fact that the video's ended, so I'm going to have to stretch out this last bit of footage. The rapid transit line runs between Moningpool Falls and Guard City St Michael via, I think it's Rinston Airport. Hang on, I've got the game open. Why am I guessing? And I can just go over and see. Wintfield Airport. I've got to remember these. Yes, so it runs between Moningpool Falls and Wintfield, Great Wintfield Airport. And then it runs into GSMI. I might build an intermediate station along the route. I haven't 100% decided on that yet. Once you get into GSMI, you then run via Guard Lake, and then you run via GSJ, Guard City St John, and then you go out to Renston Interchange. And again, it was a relatively straight route to build the station there. And then you go all the way over to, I want to say, Brenfingley Astraea. Yep, Brenfingley Astraea, where again you connect up with the high speed line. And then there's another intermediate station which is built in a greenfield site yet. I haven't actually built a town or anything near it. There will be an actual conventional rail route that will link up to this. That's currently called Bruntberg Springs East. I imagine that will be changed. And then finally up to the big terminus. I say big terminus, it's not that big. It's the same size as all the other stations. Right up at Wenningpool Acidalia. Currently there are two services. There's an express service and a super express service. There will be slower, well not slower, I mean they're all going to go 350 miles an hour at least, so that's not very slow, is it? But there will be additional stops along the route that I will add in when demand requires. There will be plenty of connections with the rest of the network, and one thing that I will like to stress is the northern section up to Wenningpool Acidalia will be changed. I don't like it. I built it as a stopgap because I wanted it to connect up to the rest of the network. I don't like it. There might end up being a northern branch, but I think actually once you get through Guard City you really should be turning south and not north, because we haven't covered any of the southeast corner yet. And actually there are some other map things that have been suggested to me that I will talk about a little bit more in the next episode. Speaking of the next episode, it might be Friday when the next episode goes live. It might not be. At the moment, as I say, university is still the priority, and there's a lot of work that I haven't been able to do because of family emergencies and stuff. So I might just have a week of catching up with university work, so between now and next Friday maybe. It used to be I'd have 5 weeks of making videos and then I'd have 1 week off. That's not been the case because I keep missing days, which means I've postponed my week off to make up for those days. But I think this week, one episode this week, maybe one episode next week as well. Whether that's Monday or Friday, I haven't decided yet. But I think I need that time just to relax and reflect, and also get some work done. So hopefully you guys are okay with that. I wanted to do the episode today because I'd recorded the footage, and also because the magazine had arrived. I wanted to spread the news. Comments. That's the last thing I want to talk about. Comments. Because people keep asking me about, can they say this? Can they say that? I like to go in with an open mind of you can say anything. However, there are rules. Don't be patronising is rule number 1. It's not a competition. You know, if I say something and it's not factually correct, if it's really, really wrong, say something. But it's the way that it's said. Instead of just saying you're wrong, it's this, or haha, I know more than you, and then saying the fact. Just say you said it was this, whereas in actual fact it's this. That's fine, because you know I want to get the correct information out. So I've got no problems with that whatsoever. But last episode, I think it was, I was talking about the Class 707 trains, and the fact that they're basically being replaced before they've even entered service. And I mentioned the fact that they were being replaced by Aventras, which is right. They are being replaced by Aventras. I think I said at the time that I couldn't remember the exact classification. But they are being replaced by Aventras. That's correct. That's not incorrect information at all. As it turns out, they're being replaced by Class 701s. If people wanted to know, that's what they're being replaced by. Correcting me on something like that and saying, oh, actually it's this, that's patronising, that's unnecessary, because I know that, well, as I say, I can always tell when someone's typing on Google to get the answer and then they put it in the comments as if they already knew it. I know that. And the reason I don't like it is because I could do that. If I'm in the video and I say, oh, I've forgotten the classification, give me 30 seconds, tap, 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 oh yeah, it's the 701s. I could do that. That's not what this is about. This is about people sharing their existing knowledge and creating a conversation based around that. It's not a competition as to who's the smartest or who can type into Google the fastest. That's stupid. Don't do that. Don't be that person, because there is a 3-strike policy on the channel, and maybe not strike 3, but strikes 1 and 2 can quite easily be patronising, trying to be a smartass. And I will refer to you as that from now on. I won't call you out by name, but you know who you are. If you're going to correct me in that way, you will be classified as a smartass from here on. Like I say, everything that I say in my videos, I spend 4 to 5 hours doing research beforehand to get the information. And I don't mind admitting that. Half the time, I don't know. I do the research, I gain the knowledge, and then I have it written down somewhere so I don't forget. You know, right now I've just spent the whole of this episode rattling off information that I've been reading directly from a magazine. It's not a competition, guys. It's not a competition. If you want to be the smartest, there are plenty of other channels that you can go do that. Don't do that here, because it puts people off. It puts me off. I don't want to engage in conversation with people who are trying to outsmart me all the time, because what's the point? Be conservative when you're commenting. Think it through. That's the biggest rule. Obviously there's things like don't use foul language, don't use racist language or anything like that. YouTube takes care of that stuff for me. But I have a policy of no patronising and no trying to be a smartass. So just remember that for future episodes. I think at the moment it's a clean slate. Everyone who had a strike is back to 0 because it's timed out essentially. It's been months since anyone broke the rule. But from here on there's a 3-strike policy. 3 strikes you're banned from the channel. It takes a lot to get strike 3, but strikes 1 and 2 can quite easily come from not looking after your comment section properly. But yeah, I think that's the end of this episode, guys. I don't want to end it on a sour note like that, but I feel like at this point, because I'm asking for more people to join the channel, I'm asking you guys to share the word and share the message and things like that, I should also reinforce the rules, because there might end up being a huge influx of new subscribers. It has started rising again, but I still don't think it's rising high enough to match how it was before. And that really is the target. Try and get 1,000 subscribers as quick as possible, because there's so many new perks that I can unlock just from having 1,000 subscribers. Never mind getting back into the partner program, but also other things that YouTube can offer that they don't give to people that have got less than 1,000 subscribers. It's a big deal. So let's hit that magic number, guys. Spread the word. Tell all your friends. Tell all your family. Share it on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, on MySpace, whatever it might be that you're using. I mean, MySpace is incredibly old. But hit that thumbs up button, drop some comments down below. Remember, it's not a competition. Apart from that, thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button and also click the bell so you can see when I upload. If you have already subscribed, thank you guys for your continued support, and also click the bell so you can see when I've uploaded. And until next time guys, I will see you soon.